Hewitt Show, the ReliefFactor.com studio inside of a very sad beltway, joined by United States Senator Tom Cotton. Good morning to you, Senator. Were you there last night in the rotunda when President Bush came to rest there for people to come and visit him?
Good morning, Hugh. It's good to be on with you. Yes, there is sadness in Washington, but also what a great life well lived to celebrate in President George H.W. Bush. I was in the rotunda last night as the honor guard carried the president's remains in, and we had a brief service to start his period of lying in state, which continues now. I was just over in the rotunda moments ago as the public was filing through to pay their respects.
It was my remark last night. He's the last of our World War II presidents. I also think he's the last one to have seen combat action. And it was remarked by some of my panelists on MSNBC that they expect in the future we will get back leaders who have seen combat. And I made the comment, I believe that actually prepares you for leadership if at the age of 18 you start flying torpedo bombers 58 times in the Pacific. You agree or neutral on it?
No, I agree, Hugh, that not just military service in general, but specifically the kind of combat service that President Bush saw in the Pacific in World War II is a terrific preparation, not just for politics, but for business and really for life in general. There's nothing like being honed on the edge of combat, having to make literally hundreds of decisions an hour, which could mean the difference between life and death for yourself and your troops. I suspect that in the future that you're probably right, but I also know that you're right that George H.W. Bush was the last of the greatest generation to serve as president and the last combat veteran thus far to serve as president, and that's one reason why our armed forces are turning out in such fine fashion for him.
Let me talk to you a little bit about Gina Haspel, the CIA director. You're on the Senate Intelligence Committee. She is coming to the Hill today, I think, to try and persuade the Senate not to act precipitously towards Saudi Arabia. Will you be in on that briefing?
As of now, no, Hugh. This is a limited briefing for the senior leaders of the Senate as well as the senior Democrat and Republicans, if I'm not mistaken, on the armed services, the Foreign Relations, and the Intelligence Committee. Obviously, as a member of the Intelligence Committee, we've already received briefings from the CIA. Some members who are not on the Intelligence Committee have been frustrated. The CIA has not been available for these briefings in the past. I understand the concerns that the administration has about potential leaks, given some of the stories over the last 2 weeks about this matter. But I think this is the way that the administration is trying to find a compromise ground where the key leaders in the Senate on these committees can have a briefing directly from Director Haspel without opening up not just to 100 senators, but to even more staff.
And can you give us an update on the criminal justice, quote, reform, which you call Jailbreak Bill? It has been revealed by Fred Barnes in the Weekly Standard there's an enormous loophole in it that would allow wardens to classify for early time release credits anyone they want.
Yeah, Hugh, I want to bring that to your and your audience's attention. One of the core arguments for this bill for months, especially over the last 2 weeks as its proponents have pushed it, is that it would only allow early release for minimal or low-risk prisoners. As you say, there's a giant loophole. It's right there, plain as day, on the bottom of page 41 and 42 that says even if you are a medium or high-risk prisoner, as long as your local warden certifies that you will not be likely to commit a future crime or a danger to society, you can be released. There's no telling what kind of pressure could be brought to bear, what kind of regulations could be issued for the Bureau of Prisons under a Democratic administration that is prioritizing letting out prisoners, even high-risk and medium-risk prisoners, which is directly contradictory of everything that the bill's proponents have said over the last 2 weeks. And I would just add one more point. If we just discovered that, it's been in the bill from the beginning, but we just discovered it after 2 weeks of scrutinizing the bill, how many other landmines are buried in that bill that are going to be dangerous to the American people?
Well, that is, I have not read the bill. Who reads bills? I mean, they're almost impossible to read, but I expect the legislative services to bring to our attention issues like that. That's been camouflaged, and I can't imagine it was accidental, right?
Well, Hugh, I read the bill, so you don't have to. I'm telling you right on the bottom of page 41 and 42, there's a key or that says you can be minimal or low risk, as the bill's proponents have said all along, or if you are medium or even high risk, you can be released early as long as your local warden approves it. that is very dangerous to public safety. There's no telling what a Democratic administration in the future would do to put pressure on wardens and give them incentives for their career advancement to let out high-risk prisoners. Or, Hugh, just to give you a sense, though, something else we've learned recently about how serious the risk is among so-called low-risk offenders. There are over 15,000 sex offenders in federal prison, Hugh, over 15,000. 72% of them are classified as low risk.
You see, I just don't think this bill is going to get out of this Congress. If anything, they've got to go back to the drawing board and sit down with you and others who are critical of the bill and work out some amendments at a minimum. And I just don't see that happening in the next 2 weeks. Senator Tom Cotton, thank you for joining me today and giving us a sense of what it's like inside the rotunda. Also an update on Gina Haspel and the jailbreak bill. Don't go anywhere, America. Hour number 3 of the Hugh Hewitt Show straight ahead. Stay tuned.